This is the council. I'm Cardinal Clark Isaac. I'm joined today by Cardinal Matt Staader. Thank you for joining us, brother.
Thank you for having me.
And today we're going to talk about ancient technologies and connections to the Anunnaki. Interesting topic. This is actually something that you've been studying for quite some time.
It is, yeah. It's since 1996, so
Okay.
approaching 30 years now.
Wow. And since you've been researching this topic, some of the revelations that have been revealed to the ecumenical order of Christ that you've been directly privy to.
Yes, it's with the video that we opened with. That was produced within the last couple of years of lasers being used to engrave solid stone, and all around the world, in the ancient world in particular. Now, a lot of people immediately think Egypt, but it's not the only one. There's stone artifacts all over the place that have perfectly cut flat sides, precision drilled holes, straight cut lines.
Can you go ahead and
And
bring some of that up for our audience so they can see a visual reference of what you're talking about there?
thank you. Now there's one there, and you can quite easily see that this looks like it was cut with relatively modern technology. And yet this stone has been sitting out in the weather like with this cut already in it and cut to that shape for thousands of years. And on the left-hand side of it, you can see the vertical cut going down. But if you look closely, you can actually also see that there are holes equally spaced. I'm not sure if that is the exact same stone, but it's a example of the exact same type of cut. Now those holes are perfectly equally sized, perfectly spaced from each other, and mainstream archaeologists and historians want to claim that all of this kind of thing was done with chisels made of copper and other soft metals, which was the only metal that was available, supposedly, in that time.
You don't see any chisel marks on any of these things.
No.
Very precise shapes too.
Very precise shapes. There are some that have surfaces that are so finely shaped, and unfortunately I don't have any examples of them immediately available, but the surface of the stone is polished to the point where it reflects light like glass, really.
Yeah, we're seeing these geometric shapes like perfect squares, perfect circles.
Now, the thing that has always got me about images like this particular one is you can see the top and the sides are cut from the main piece that was removed, and then there's the depression in the back wall. Now, if you were to have something like a rotary saw, which has been a common method of cutting stone known to our era of history, that one better shows it where you've got the cuts going all the way to the corners. You're not doing that with a circular saw, and even if you can do the horizontal and vertical cuts, how are you cutting it at the back?
Well, you would assume based on the video that we just showed, it was something like a laser.
That there was some kind, I would argue, well, a bigger form of it, because even the version of the technology that was being demonstrated there, it was about the size of a 3D printer.
But and this is obviously vastly
this temple,
scale.
this temple is in Ethiopia, and the temple itself, that building, is a single piece of stone cut directly into the top of the mountain. There is no bricks, there is no mortar. It was just cut straight into the rock.
Imagine like how much time that would take to cut something like that.
There is another example of a much more elaborate temple, which is actually as a Hindu temple in India. There it is there, jumping a little bit ahead. Now, you can see in the structure of that compared to the one in Ethiopia, the level of detail alone is phenomenal. And this thing was supposedly built, I'm not sure of how large the workforce was supposed to have been, but the mainstream accepted theory is that this was done with chisels in 5 years.
That's absurd.
Now, you can see there that there's the same one in Ethiopia from a different angle. But on the previous one, you can actually see the different layers of the rock in the stone alternating between the black and the orangey red type colour. And it matches the walls of the where it was cut out.
The rock face.
The rock face, yes. Thank you. I forgot my words. Now, I have seen other images of this from a slightly different angle, and that circular platform you can see with the 4 lion-type statues on it, they are polished. They shine in the sun when it's at the right angle.
Very interesting. And what are these that we're seeing here?
Those are several. Well, the top left.
Well, I can see that some of these are the same location, right?
One of the same locations. The top left, the bottom middle, and possibly the bottom right as well.
Well, the audience can't see the bottom right.
Okay.
Your image there, but it's not as detailed as the others. So
it could actually be that all of these are from that same location. That there's additional structures carved into the rock face itself. Probably methods of accessing it. Maybe there's passageways. I don't know for certain. To access this from the slope, the exterior sides of the mountain.
So there's another structure in antiquity that I know you wanted to discuss, and that's the pyramids.
The Great Pyramid of Giza in particular, which is the centre there. And either side of it we can see multiple different other examples of these precision cuts in stone. The key point that has always amazed, or I don't know if that's the right word, but has always confounded archaeologists is how perfectly the stones of the Great Pyramid fit together. And those are just the ones that are there now. It's not even taking into account the limestone casing that used to be there, where the seams between the casing stones were almost invisible, and it was polished almost to a mirror finish so that it reflected light for miles around. Now, referring directly to this one, and inside the Great Pyramid as well, there is carvings which quite clearly look like they've been done using the same kind of technology. And to go even deeper, and referring to the image that's on the screen now, there's the coordinates of the GPS system, which was not established until relatively recently in modern history. Much like the metric system, like meters in particular in this case. We've got the northern coordinate of the Great Pyramid in the GPS coordinates exactly matches the speed of light in meters per second.
Wow. So let me get this straight.
Now,
You're saying that this number we're seeing here on the screen, the longitude coordinates, which is also a fairly new concept, at least from our current history, and the measurement of meters itself, meters and seconds, also what we would perceive as a recent concept, perfectly match the location to the speed of light, the location of the pyramid
to 9 digits of accuracy.
That's a huge connection.
Yeah. Now, the other point that I didn't mention to you earlier, what is laser? What is that technology based on?
Light.
It is pure focused light.
And they would portray that through its location and the speed of light. That's amazing.
I believe that was I don't know if the humans that were involved in the construction of the pyramids had that knowledge themselves, but it was definitely built into the structure to fit with the GPS system and the meters and seconds of the metric. See, I'm not sure, I wouldn't say our measurement of time referring to the seconds is actually a part of the metric system, but meters definitely. Now,
I want to show on the screen here. I'm gonna pull your image out so they can see the whole thing.
Okay.
But yeah, if the audience could forgive that little border there, but you can see clearly the numbers here now.
Starting from the bottom, got 29
in meters, right?
Yeah,
measured in meters.
Measured in meters.
A constant that we're seeing.
The constant we're seeing, and again, the metric system was not invented until I think 1795, and that originated in France.
But clearly it's a superior measurement system, and it was used way back before then.
Yeah.
And these measurements are what?
Starting from the bottom, we've got 29 meters. Then it's the black one. It's labelled clearly with the arrow. The orange one, 97 meters. The blue one, 92. The horizontal grey one, 45. And the King's Chamber, I believe it is, which is 8 meters.
And I want the audience to really keep in mind that this clearly is not a tomb. This is something else entirely. It almost looks like some kind of energy generation device.
There are a lot of theories for what the internal structure of the chambers and the corridors of the Great Pyramid were intended to be.
I'm going to focus on you for a second here. If you want to keep this conversation active, what I'm going to do while I have you on the screen here is I'm going to look up something that I saw recently.
Okay.
It just came to mind. It was light emanating from the tip of the pyramid, Egypt.
Interesting. The thing that I suppose I shouldn't be surprised at this point, but when I woke up this morning, well, up until the point that I woke up this morning, I thought I had all of the information prepared for today that I wanted to include for today's show. But I woke up with the information about the temples in my head. And the moment I turned on my computer, the first thing I saw was that video of the stone being laser engraved. And I consider that nothing less than a gift from God, giving me some indication of what he wanted brought up today.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not able to find the image that I saw. It was actually a video, but
okay,
that's all right.
Well, we'll see if we can find it for next week.
Yeah, there's probably a lot more to be discussed about this. But there were additional structures across the globe that you wanted to discuss.
Well, this one is in South America. I'm not sure of if I've got the pronunciation correct, but it's commonly referred to as Machu Picchu. Now, the entire ruin here is at an elevation of just under 8,000 feet above sea level. And just if you can sort of mentally try to visualize it without the structures there and just look at the flat surface, you can see it in the middle between the rows of buildings. That is a mountain that has been leveled, a peak that has been basically sheared off and landscaped, creating terraces and different levels.
Clearly, that's something that can't be done with land vehicles. There had to be some kind of aerial assistance there.
Almost definitely. And aside from that, and this isn't the only other example of it, and I don't have images, but I'm sure everyone's familiar with the concept of the Nazca lines. The objects that can only really be discerned from the sky. That's another example where an entire peak of a mountain is just gone, and in neither location is there any sign of the rubble.
That's some impressive landscaping.
Wherever that rock went, it is not in the valleys surrounding it. Now, if that same kind of construction were done today, the top of the mountain would be destroyed with explosives and then the rubble just pushed into the surrounding valleys below with bulldozers and such. But these two examples, there's just no clear indication of where that material has gone. And I've read once that studies were done on the elevation where Machu Picchu is located. It is near on impossible for humans to carry out manual labour due to the thinning of the oxygen content in the air. If you're just walking around, you can breathe perfectly fine up until about 13,000 feet. But if you're actually engaged in manual physical labour and carrying stones, as the typical accepted theory wants us to believe, it's not a feasible way to look at it.
People would be able to carry these massive megalith stones anyways.
No.
Rolling on blocks or whatever they say is the way that it did it.
That is the accepted theory for how the Great Pyramid was built. It was, first of all, stones cut from a quarry thousands of kilometres away, floated up the Nile River on boats, and then dragged with ropes, rolling on logs, up a slope, as increasingly steep slope, as the pyramid got higher and higher. And according to the archaeological theory, the speed at which the period of time in which the Great Pyramid was built, each one of these perfectly shaped stones to fit together so that you can't fit a razor blade between them, each one of them was shaped and placed every, I think it was 20 seconds.
There's other examples in additional structures around the globe where there is no space in between.
Yeah. Is this example on the screen now?
Yeah, it is.
Now, these are probably some of the finer examples of this. There's other images of just walls where stones almost seem to appear to have been reshaped like they've been partially melted and pressed together, or somehow had their molecular structure altered to a point where they can just be, let's just say, manipulated like modeling clay or something like that. Now, they're not perfectly symmetrical stones or anything like that, but you can see quite clearly they fit perfectly together.
There's no technology available on planet Earth today that could do something like
No,
that.
nothing.
It's nothing we're aware of.
There's, I have heard theories, and some of them have been becoming more mainstream in recent years. Things to do with sound or vibration. Well, okay. The sound is more what it's focused on. But every example of sonic levitation I've seen, the the heaviest things that I've seen being lifted is tiny little styrofoam beads that weigh essentially nothing, or drops of water, with readily available technology today.
And if there were any exceptions to that, they certainly wouldn't be megalith stones that they produce that technology to overcome.
I am convinced that vibration, well, sound is a vibration, we know that. That vibrational forces, let's say, are definitely a part of it. But, and getting back to the Anunnaki, which we've hardly mentioned at all so far today, I would argue that they have a technology which is almost like a laser beam, but it's a focused magnetic energy.
Sounds like a tractor beam.
For lack of a better term, and something that's more commonly understood, yeah.
So
It's
it seems like Star Trek really had something in a lot of ways.
in many ways, yes. There's at least the earlier examples of Star Trek, like with Captain Kirk, and to some extent with Picard, were a representation of things that would be seen in the New Kingdom.
And these are clearly technologies that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, but I think they've been kept from us as we. I don't believe humans were using these things themselves. It was the Anunnaki building these structures for mankind, or building it for themselves, and humans simply made use of it later on. It could be both. There's a lot of examples of these kind of structures all over the world. And depending on the location and the circumstances in that particular part of the world, both circumstances could apply.
Well, before we did the show today, you and I were talking about a presentation that I'd done on the Giza pyramids years ago on a public forum
Yeah.
presentation that was done in Baja California.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we were talking about remaking it into something, of course, of a better quality. But I'd like to, if we could work together and include some of the information you're presenting today.
I would love to. I'd be honored to be a part of that.
Maybe, I think you have a better accent, like a more intriguing accent. So maybe if you wouldn't mind narrating and helping me write this, and we'll put that out to our audience.
Absolutely.
That sounds good. So, and there's a piece of scripture I wanted to kind of preamble about that. This is from the book of Isaiah, chapter 19 and verse 19. In that day there shall be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. And I recall in that presentation that we went over a lot of the details about every single part of that scripture and how the Giza pyramid fit exactly that description. And I hope our audience can get to view that. If you're viewing us today, please like, share, and subscribe. And buy the Lord's book, the Return of Christ, from Amazon. And a lot of the things that we discuss in these shows are included in that book.
It's covered in detail.
Great detail. And we like to expound on it in video format. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this show. But we're also talking about some things that aren't yet written in the book. And it may be a while before we get to that because we've got other projects going on right now.
And doing updates to that book is a lot of work.
Oh, it is.
It takes a lot of time.
But something that helps us to speed up that timeline is for you to purchase that book, even gifting it to your family and friends, and donating to our PayPal, contributing to this cause helps us to improve our mission. So,
It's
again, Brother Cardinal Matt Staader, thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing you again next week at the same time.
absolutely.
All right. And again, please like, subscribe, share. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Same time tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And please join us every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. For the daily news with Cardinal Thomas Cavan and myself, Cardinal Clark Isaac. And on Sunday at 3 p.m., the council will be hosting multiple cardinals to discuss an important topic yet to be revealed, but we will make the announcement soon. May God bless in the name of Lord Rael.
Amen. That went quicker than expected.
30 minutes exactly.